Welcome back to Superbly Said Advanced English Vocabulary and Phrases.
And just a quick note for you before we dive into the material today. This session actually comes directly from a SpeakDuo lesson.
Right.
So you go to SpeakDuo.com to, meet new people from all around the world who are practicing English on video calls. It's a great way to become more confident with your English speaking abilities.
Yeah, it really is a fantastic resource. So let's jump right in and set the mission for today. This session is strictly for our advanced English learners.
Absolutely.
Because today we are looking at these, masterful, really cinematic idioms and expressions that we use to describe success and failure.
Yeah, we're not just, reading a dictionary list here.
Exactly. We want to skip the fluff. So we're going to dive straight into the deep end of the vocabulary. Think about like a massive corporate project.
Oh, yeah. High stakes?
Right, high stakes. Or a startup trying to launch its very first product. We're going to trace the language of that specific journey.
I love that framework.
Yeah.
Because, every great movie and honestly every great career starts with a struggle.
Totally.
So let's look at the language we use when a project is just, facing imminent disaster.
Yeah.
So our first advanced term for you is floundering.
Okay, floundering. Now, I feel like a lot of learners might just default to the word failing here, right? Like if the project is bad, it's failing.
Yeah, they do.
But floundering, it paints a very different, a much more specific picture, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And it really, it comes down to the timeline. So failing is the final outcome.
Right. Game over.
Exactly. The doors are closed. You're bankrupt.
Yeah.
But floundering, that is struggling without direction. You're definitely in danger of failing, but it's the chaotic, directionless struggle before the failure.
Okay, so it can still be salvaged?
Yes, you can still be rescued. Think about the actual origin of the word. A flounder is a type of flatfish.
Oh, right.
So imagine a fish that gets caught in shallow mud. It's thrashing violently using massive amounts of energy, but it's going absolutely nowhere.
That is such a vivid mental image. So if you were, say, answering an IELTS Part 2 question about challenging experience, you could say something like, when I first changed careers, I was completely floundering in my new department for weeks until a mentor stepped in.
That is a perfect example. You were thrashing around in the mud, but you didn't formally fail.
Right, the mentor saved me.
Exactly. But, okay, what happens if that struggle suddenly gains, dangerous momentum?
Oh, things get worse.
Much worse.
Yeah.
That brings us to our second phrase, to barrel towards something.
Okay, barrel towards. Now, in everyday conversation, I'd probably just say we are heading towards a disaster.
Yeah, most people would.
But barreling, it kind of, I don't know, it changes the physics of the sentence.
The physics, yes. That is exactly what changes. If you are heading towards a destination, you're just, moving in that direction.
All right, you're still driving the car.
Exactly. You can just hit the brakes. But if you are barreling towards something, you are moving rapidly and unstoppably. Imagine an actual massive, heavy wooden barrel filled with liquid.
Oh, wow.
And it's just rolling down a steep hill.
Oh, I immediately picture that old Donkey Kong video game,
Yes.
Those massive barrels just bouncing down the ladders. You have absolutely zero control, and you definitely cannot just step in front of it to stop it.
Right. It has its own terrifying momentum. So in a conversation with your boss, if you really want to convey absolute urgency, you don't say you're heading towards an issue.
You say we're barreling towards it.
Exactly. You say, if we don't fix this software bug right now, we are barreling towards a disaster for the product launch.
It demands immediate action. It's not a casual update.
Exactly.
Okay, so the barrel hits us. We've taken the damage. That perfectly sets up our next idiom, which is being on the ropes.
Ah, yes.
Which means being in a very weak or desperate position, terribly close to defeat. But again, I hear people say they are under the weather or in a tight spot.
Sure. Those are common.
So why use on the ropes? What's the nuance?
It's the psychological weight it carries. Under the weather just means you have a mild cold, right?
Yeah, you take a day off.
Right. And in a tight spot means you have a tricky puzzle to solve. But on the ropes is a direct boxing metaphor.
Oh, of course. The boxing ring.
Right. If your opponent backs you up so far that your back is physically pressing into the boundary ropes, you have nowhere left to retreat.
You're trapped.
You are actively taking heavy hits to the face, and you are literally one strike away from a total knockout.
It is so violent when you really stop to think about it. We use these incredibly physical metaphors while we're just, sitting in air-conditioned office chairs.
It's hilarious, honestly.
But it communicates the survival stakes of corporate life. You might explain a difficult order by saying, following the severe budget cuts, our marketing team was completely on the ropes, but we managed to pivot and survive.
You took the hits, but you stayed on your feet.
Exactly.
But, sometimes a project takes a hit that it just cannot survive.
And that brings us to the end of our first section. Beyond repair.
Beyond repair. So, too damaged to be fixed or restored.
Exactly. So the key difference here, the nuance, is permanence. It's not just out of order.
Right. I mean, if the office printer is out of order, you call a technician and it works again on Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a temporary annoyance.
But beyond repair is fatal. It's like shattering a glass vase into 1,000 pieces. You can try to glue it, but its structural integrity is just gone forever.
That makes it such a powerful phrase for talking about abstract concepts like relationships or professional reputation.
Oh, absolutely.
So in an IELTS exam or a professional setting, you could say, after the massive data breach, the client's trust in our firm was simply beyond repair.
There is a real tragic finality to that.
Yeah, the ultimate failure state. But wait, I want to point out the progression here to our listeners because it's fascinating.
Well, let's hear it.
First, you are floundering in the water.
Bye.
Then you are barreling towards the waterfall. Then you are on the ropes taking hits. And finally, you are beyond repair.
That is a very grim timeline.
It is. But do you think, recognizing these specific idioms actually helps professionals realize they still have time to fix things before they reach that beyond repair stage?
Wait, 100%. Because if you can clearly identify that you are just floundering, it's a direction problem, not a fatal crash yet.
You're right. You just need a map.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Language gives you the power to diagnose the issue.
Yeah.
But, every scenario also has its cast of characters.
Oh, yes. The people involved.
Right. So let's smoothly pivot from the situations of failure to people, starting with the stalwart.
The stalwart. Okay, so loyal, devoted, long-standing supporter.
Yes.
Now, advanced learners need to differentiate a stalwart from just a simple fan or a supporter.
I do. It's a big difference.
Because a fan can be fleeting, right? Like you can be a fan of a band for one summer and then completely forget they exist.
Yeah, or a supporter might just back your proposal in one specific meeting.
Right, but a stalwart implies decades of unwavering, rock-solid loyalty through the good times and the bad.
They are the pillars holding the building up. So a boss praising a colleague might say, Sarah has been a stalwart of the engineering department since the company was founded.
Such a great compliment. But unfortunately, every office also has the complete opposite.
Oh, yes.
The naysayer. Someone who habitually expresses doubt or negativity.
The dreaded naysayer.
Now, I'm going to push back here for a second.
Okay.
Because we need critics, right? I mean, groupthink is dangerous. Why is being a naysayer inherently a bad thing?
Well, that is a crucial distinction. We absolutely do need critics.
Right.
Because a critic looks at your work objectively and offers constructive feedback, to help you build something better.
Okay, so what's a naysayer doing differently?
A naysayer doesn't actually care about the work.
Mm-hmm.
Their entire identity is built around saying nay, saying no.
They're habitually negative.
Exactly. They don't want you to improve. Their own worldview almost requires you to fail.
I see. So a critic critiques the project, but a naysayer critiques the actual possibility of success itself.
Perfectly said.
So for an IELTS Part 2 response, you might say, I had to actively ignore the naysayers in my family who told me starting a small business was just too risky.
Spot on. You have to block them out. And dealing with those habitual naysayers often leads to our next phrase, to rile someone up.
Rile someone up, meaning to make someone angry, frustrated, or agitated.
Yes.
So how does this differ from just annoying a coworker?
Well, annoyance is pretty passive and mild. If a fly is buzzing near your ear while you type, it's annoying.
Yeah, you just swat it away.
But riling someone up is an active, escalating process. Picture a clear glass of water with sand at the very bottom.
Okay.
If you stir it violently, you rile up the sand until the whole glass is murky. You're winding a person up to a state of highly visible vocal agitation.
You are intentionally poking the bear.
Exactly.
Like a quick chat with a colleague before a meeting. You might say, don't bring up the new vacation policy. You know exactly how to rile the boss up.
Right. You are warning them not to stir the sand. Now, what if the reaction from the team isn't explosive, but instead it's just incredibly weak?
Oh, that's almost worse.
It is. That is called half-hearted, lacking genuine enthusiasm or commitment.
Now, if I'm managing a team and someone gives me a half-hearted effort, my instinct is just to call them lazy. Is there a difference?
Yes, there is a big difference in character versus action. Being lazy is generally a persistent character trait.
Like, they're just a lazy person.
Right. But half-hearted refers to a specific, unconvincing action. Think of the biology of it. Your whole heart pumps blood to keep you alive.
Sure.
Putting half your heart into something means you are barely keeping it breathing. A normally brilliant employee can give a half-hearted effort if they simply do not believe in the project.
So it's about that specific effort. You could say, the vendor gave a half-hearted apology for the delay, which only riled me up further.
That is a fantastic combination of the phrases. Now, our last character-driven phrase is fan service.
Fan service. Content created specifically to please devoted existing fans.
Exactly.
I feel like this walks a very fine line with pandering, though. How do we separate fan service from pandering?
Well, pandering feels manipulative, it's desperate, and it often sacrifices the actual quality of the product just to get, cheap, unearned applause.
Right. It feels inauthentic.
But fan service is usually a fun, respectful nod to the longtime loyalists. It's a reward for the stalwarts we talked about earlier.
Ah, okay. So in a corporate context, someone might say, bringing back the old classic user interface as an option was pure fan service for our earliest users.
Exactly.
But honestly, I want to challenge this because I think fan service can be a trap in the corporate world.
How so?
If a company only focuses on pleasing the old fans, they just become a nostalgia act. They stop innovating for the silent majority of new users. Doesn't that hold a company back?
That is a brilliant point. If you only look backward, you can't build for the future. And that actually transitions us perfectly into our final act.
The climb.
Yes. We've struggled, we've dealt with the office personalities, and now we reach the results and the legacy. Let's look at timing first. Down to the wire.
Meaning continuing until the very last possible moment.
Yes.
Now let's compare this to at the last minute, because if I finish a report at 11:59 p.m., aren't both true?
They might both be technically true, but they focus on completely different parts of the timeline.
Okay, explain that.
So at the last minute implies a sudden action right at the end. Like you were walking out the door, realize you forgot your keys, and grab them at the last minute.
Oh, so it's instantaneous.
Right. But down to the wire originates from horse racing. They used to string an actual physical wire across the finish line.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it implies a continuous agonizing tension where the outcome is unknown right up until the horses literally cross that wire.
Oh, so the sweat is dripping the entire time.
Exactly.
So a boss giving an update might say, the negotiations with the supplier went right down to the wire, finishing at 11:59 p.m. The tension was sustained for hours.
Precisely. Now, if those high-tension negotiations actually go well, you might achieve a high watermark.
Which is the highest point of achievement reached in a given period.
Yes.
But why use high watermark instead of just saying we reached a peak?
Peak is a great word, but it's very abstract. A high watermark is deeply historical and incredibly visual.
How so?
It literally refers to the physical stain left on a wall or a building after a flood recedes.
Oh, wow.
It acts as a historical, measurable standard that future floods, or in our case, future corporate successes, have to beat.
What an incredible visual. So for an IELTS response about work, you could say, last quarter's profit margins were the high watermark for our startup.
Yes, meaning that is the literal line on the wall we have to measure ourselves against now.
Right. And if you do beat it, you might have a smash success with rave reviews.
I pair these together because they represent enormous commercial achievement paired with enthusiastically positive critical responses.
It just sounds so much bigger than simply saying we had success and good feedback.
It is entirely about the scale. A smash success absolutely shatters expectations. And rave reviews mean people aren't just ticking a satisfactory box, they are passionately shouting your praises.
So the new app feature was a smash success and received rave reviews from tech bloggers.
Perfect.
But, okay, let me play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
If you hit a high watermark, right, and you get a smash success, but then you never ever manage to do it again, are you just a one-hit wonder? Is a high watermark just a polite way of saying you're a one-hit wonder?
Oh, that is a sharp observation. But it is all a matter of legacy and the timeline.
Okay, clarify the timeline for me.
A high watermark just means you haven't beaten that score yet. You are still actively trying.
Ah.
But a one-hit wonder is a historical judgment. It means someone is celebrated for only one single achievement, and history proves they never replicated it.
It's a bit tragic, really. And it's different from a flash in the pan, right?
Yes, definitely.
because a flash in the pan is just brief attention with very little substance. But a one-hit wonder actually achieves something genuinely great. They just couldn't do it twice.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
their first marketing campaign was brilliant, but the agency turned out to be a one-hit wonder.
The substance was there, but the longevity was not.
You nailed it.
All right, well, you've heard the nuances, you've pictured the scenarios in our little corporate drama here. Now it is time to put your memory to the test with our superbly said quiz.
I love this part. Okay, here is how the format will work. We're going to read a question and provide option A, option B, and option C.
Yep.
And we want you to listen. And please feel free to pause the audio here if you need to think about the answer before we reveal the correct choice.
And I'll tell you, some of these options are quite a mouthful, so really pay attention to the context. I'll kick us off. Question 1. Which sentence uses the idiomatic phrase on the ropes correctly based on context?
The incredibly exhausted, terrified young mountain climber found himself dangerously dangling on the ropes.
The incredibly exhausted, stressed culinary student accidentally spilled hot soup directly on the roasts.
Following the incredibly massive financial disaster, the powerful corporate empire was on the ropes. So feel free to pause the audio here if you need to think about the answer.
And the correct answer is option C. On the ropes means close to defeat. Remember that boxing metaphor we discussed, where a company is taking hits from budget cuts and is just one strike away from defeat? It has absolutely nothing to do with physical mountain climbing ropes.
Right. Okay, your turn for question 2.
All right, question 2. Select the context where the phrase rile someone up is most appropriately used.
He completely understood exactly how to successfully rile his political opponent up during debates.
The incredibly organized library assistant decided to carefully file someone up the documents today.
The incredibly fast, enthusiastic marathon runner managed to accidentally mile someone up this morning. Feel free to pause the audio here if you need to think about the answer.
And the answer is option A. Rile someone up means to intentionally agitate or frustrate someone, just like bringing up that awful vacation policy in a meeting to intentionally rile the boss up.
Exactly.
Okay, question 3. In which situation does someone accurately utilize the advanced adjective stalwart?
The highly exhausted, frightened grocery customer noticed a terribly massive, dangerous stalwart today.
She remained an incredibly dedicated stalwart supporter regarding local environmental conservation efforts for decades.
The incredibly talented historical astronomer studied the beautiful, bright, tall starwart tonight peacefully. Feel free to pause the audio here if you need to think about the answer.
And the correct answer is option B. A stalwart is a deeply devoted, long-standing supporter. Call back to Sarah, that dedicated engineering colleague who stood by the department since it was founded.
The true pillar of the office.
Indeed. All right, question 4. Which response best demonstrates the advanced phrase, down to the wire?
The incredibly tense, stressful election results went absolutely down to the wire this evening.
The deeply exhausted professional electrician climbed carefully down to the wire near the ground.
The highly confused amateur carpenter accidentally nailed something directly down to the fire today. Feel free to pause the audio here if you need to think about the answer.
The answer is option A. Down to the wire means continuing right up until the last possible second with agonizing tension, just like finishing those negotiations at 11:59 p.m.
Yes, the sweat is definitely dripping.
Okay, question 5. How would a professional accurately use the adjective floundering figuratively?
The highly experienced marine biologist successfully rescued the incredibly beautiful floundering fish this morning.
The incredibly excited lost tourist enjoyed delightfully wandering completely randomly across the beautiful city.
Following the incredibly sudden, unexpected corporate leadership change, the entire department was terribly floundering. Feel free to pause the audio here if you need to think about the answer.
And the answer is option C. Floundering, in a figurative sense, is struggling chaotically without any direction, just like someone starting a new role and thrashing in the mud before a mentor steps in.
Right. All right. You're up for question 6.
Question 6. Which scenario perfectly illustrates the ability to reach a high watermark figuratively?
The deeply exhausted professional building inspector carefully examined the dangerous physical high water mark today.
That incredibly successful, profitable financial quarter absolutely represented the corporate high watermark this year.
The totally confused dog walker desperately attempted to rapidly find the dry water mark today. Feel free to pause the audio here if you need to think about the answer.
And the correct answer is option B. A high watermark is that record achievement. It's the literal line on the wall, like those profit margins we have to measure ourselves against next quarter.
Perfect.
We are almost there. Question 7. Which sentence accurately utilizes the advanced phrase, beyond repair?
Because the incredibly severe catastrophic earthquake struck the historic building was unfortunately beyond repair.
The highly exhausted professional automotive mechanic enthusiastically discovered something completely wonderful beyond the pair.
The incredibly frustrated, angry, terrible customer screamed violently directly beyond the stairs this afternoon. Feel free to pause the audio here if you need to think about the answer.
And the answer is option A. Beyond repair implies something is permanently and fatally broken. Just like the shattered trust of a client after a severe data breach. You just can't glue it back together.
So true. All right, the final question is yours.
Let's bring it home. Question 8. Which of the following statements correctly uses one-hit wonder figuratively?
The terribly violent, aggressive street fighter proudly delivered an incredibly devastating one-hit wonder today.
Despite massive initial worldwide popularity, the alternative rock band ultimately remained a one-hit wonder.
The incredibly confused, exhausted marathon runner unfortunately suffered a terrible, wonderful sun-hit blunder today. Feel free to pause the audio here if you need to think about the answer.
And the final answer is option B. A one-hit wonder is celebrated for a single achievement, but can never replicate that specific success, much like that brilliant marketing agency we talked about earlier.
Fantastic job, everyone. Navigating that quiz was no small feat.
I know, those sentences were basically a labyrinth of adjectives.
They really were. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the source material today, I actually want to leave you with a final thought to mull over on your own.
Oh, I like a good thought experiment.
Think about the idioms you use every single day. We just spent this entire session exploring how incredibly dramatic and even violent our corporate vocabulary actually is.
It's true, taking punches, barreling out of control.
Exactly. We frame our daily work challenges like a Hollywood disaster movie, right?
Yeah.
Always barreling towards disaster or waiting for a smash success.
Yeah, we really do.
But language shapes reality. So maybe, just maybe, lowering the dramatic stakes of our vocabulary could actually help us stop floundering and start succeeding.
Wow, that is an incredible point. If we just stop speaking like we're constantly on the ropes, we might realize we actually have the space to step back and just solve the problem.
Precisely.
Well, thank you all for joining us for this session. Remember to practice these phrases, visualize the concepts behind them, and keep building your confidence.
Keep practicing.
We'll catch you next time.